The purpose of today's class is to go over some commands inside MicroStation that pertain to scripting. If you're wanting to batch multiple commands together and facilitate the ease of use within the drawing. So we're going to be covering several things. And then as you have questions, just begin to ask me what you have. I'll just go through the session. What I've done is prepared a location here with some drawings, and you'll recognize this as the Rocherin project. So I just made a copy of it so that we can look down in these drawings and apply some of our scripting to it. Scripting comes in a variety of shapes and colors. You can do so many things. And so we have lots of scripts that we can create. As you can see here, I've got quite a few of them in here for doing so many different things. So when you're in MicroStation and you're trying to do multiple tasks, usually it's one of two things. Either you're trying to clean up some drawings. In other words, before you send out 100 files to the client, you want to take those files and make them uniform. What I mean by uniform, I mean you might want to open a drawing and have the color set to white and the weight set to 1 and the line style set to 0 and on a certain level. And you might want that for all of them. I know I've opened many drawings that have been delivered to me, and every time I open a drawing, I'm looking somewhere different on every sheet. Sometimes the title block, sometimes it's zoomed out and I see a lot of garbage outside. Mm-hmm. So that tells me that whenever someone sent these drawings to me, they didn't care how I opened them up and looked at them. But typically what you want to do is care how your client opens your drawings. So it doesn't matter what the standard is, as long as you set a standard for one drawing and you make that go across all your drawings before you deliver them. And that way when they open a drawing and they open the next one and the next one and the next one, they're kind of looking in the same spot. At least we give them a place to begin. They can go where they want to after that, but that's just a little bit of finesse that you can put in your drawing. And it's not just for the purpose of making or having the drawings open up at the same place all the time. It's you're wanting to turn on some things and turn some things off that will trip the other user up if you're not careful. For example, if you were using the axis lock and in the course of getting out of the drawing you save your settings and you didn't realize the axis lock was on, then when they open it up and begin to draw, you know what they're going to see. Their line is going to be taken over by the axis lock, and they're going to say, dang, someone didn't turn that off before they sent it to me, because it's annoying. And it's not just that lock, it's several of them. If they went to print the drawing and they realized that there were a lot of text node numbers printing out on the paper, they're going to say, well, why didn't they turn off the display of the text nodes before they sent it to me? So if these are the kinds of agitation that we want to avoid, then we can do that before we ever send the drawings to them. So we can create some kind of a standard script that you can run against all of your drawings that'll turn the things on that you want on and turn the things off that you know might trip them up. And then you save your settings and then the drawings are ready to be put on a DVD or a thumb drive or something and delivered to the client. So that's another purpose of scripting. Cleaning up drawings, making them standardized so that you turn off the bad stuff and turn on the good stuff before you send them. That can be an automated process. Another automated process for scripting is when you have text that you'd like to put in your drawing. Labels. I do this a lot for David and for John Jager when it comes to placing light poles down a corridor or handholds or something. And then there is a list in an Excel spreadsheet of what is the name of that pole and the name of that pole and the name of the next pole or structure. And they'd like for that text to show up in the drawing. Well, how do you take an Excel spreadsheet full of coordinates as to where these poles are and their label and automatically throw it in the drawing so that the pole is at the right place and it has its label with it as well? So that's another useful thing that scripting will allow you to do, because you want to do everything that you can automatic as much as you can and less manual, one-on-one. So that's the purpose of. Yeah, go ahead. Question.
For the power pole, can you create some different layer like power pole that's for PP, right? LP for LiPo. Then I see some pole there with transformer in there, so I just label that one the PB for the transformer pole. So anyway, you can create a different level for each pole.
Sure, you can. Do you want a different look for each of your poles as well, or will they always be a circle?
The circle
Yes.
and everything little circle only a different label.
The label would be different, and maybe even the level name. You want it on a different layer?
Yeah, I think it could put like a different layer for pole, like
Sure.
LiPo. So with the circle, with whatever color it is, so we can see clear which one is. Because sometimes they put in there and they check on, they put like PP, but I look on Google Map, that's so that the TP, that's the transformer pole. It's not the power pole,
Okay.
not the PP or LP.
Okay. Let me go ahead and open a drawing, and as we show different things or have questions, we'll have a drawing that we could work with. I'll just open the alignment drawing only because it has basic geometry. And this is the alignment that was used in the Rocheron project, but we're going to do different things with it here. And let me talk about the cells for just a moment. If we go to Element and Cells, and you then can open the library of your choice. Currently we have the BBI Share library attached. And if you'll notice in the list, it says the type of cell is a graphic cell. When a cell is created, it can be created in a few different ways. And I'll give you an example. Let me go to Settings, View Attributes, and turn off Level Overrides, the level symbology, so that we get to see the actual colors of things. If I was going to create another cell right now called Monument or Monu, okay, if I take a circle and I just place a circle out here, and if I place some line work, turn on my AccuDraw, I'm going to move this to the center of the circle.
Did you start the recording?
I did, yeah. So here I have two pieces of geometry, two primitive elements that are making up something that I want to use as a monument. And for me to put it in the library, step one is to draw the geometry. Step two is to put a fence around the geometry. Step three is to define its origin by coming to the Cell Tools and selecting Define Cell Origin. And wherever you put the origin is where it's going to come out of the library on your cursor as you go and place it. So sometimes it makes sense to have it in the very center. Sometimes it makes sense to have it on the very bottom. It depends on what the cell is. In this case, I'm going to put the origin in the center. I'll accept it. And now the last step is to create this as a cell. So if I was using my key ends, I'll go to the key end field, and if I typed in create cell equal, CC equal, create cell equal, I'm going to call it Monu1 or Monument 1. I'll do a comma, and I have 27 characters that I can use to make a description. And I'll just type in there my first monument. And as soon as I hit enter, you'll see it over in our cell box. Let me go down to where I just created Monu. So if I click on Monu 1, you can see the name I gave it, you can see the description I gave it, and you can see that it's a graphic cell. A graphic cell means that it will come back out of that library and be placed in your drawing. The color and the weight and the level, everything, the way it was created is the way you're going to get it back. Now let me create that same cell again. I'm going to hit up arrow, and I'm going to change it this time to the name Monu2. I'll call it my second monument. And this time I'm going to, at the end, put a comma and a P. So this is another way you can create a cell, is making it a point cell. I'm going to hit enter, and it enters into the cell library. But now look at the end of the name of it, it's a PNT for point. So even MicroStation will tell you if the cell that you're looking at is a graphic cell, meaning it's going to come out exactly the way it was put in. Or if it's a point cell, which means it can come out differently than the way you created it. And sometimes these cells are created on purpose they were defined properly because that's the way you want it. Now, if I place, I'm going to bring out the active cell AC equal Monu1. But before I hit enter, let me come up here and change a few things. I'll change the color to yellow, line style to dotted, and the weight to a 3. And I will say bring out Monu1, and I better change the scale. Active scale equals 1, and active angle equals 0. Okay. So with scale of 1 and the angle of 0, when I bring Monu1 back out into the drawing, you can see it looks like the way I created it when I put it in there. If I bring up Monu2 and go to place it, notice the difference between Monu1 and Monu2. Look what the point cell gives you. The point cell will allow you to pull the geometry out of the library and place it according to your active attributes. If you change your color to yellow, if you change the level, or the line style, or the weight, any of those 4 attribute features, if you change them, then your cell will come out there accordingly. Now, can you think of a moment or a time when you would want to place a point cell by design in your drawing? Well, can you think of a time whenever a cell would, same cell, same look and feel, would be different many different times, many different ways you place it? You got an idea of when you would use it?
Like proposed or existing? Or?
Proposed, existing, and future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, proposed is going to be what? Proposed is
thicker
solid,
lines.
thicker,
Solid.
thicker. If it's existing, it would be a lightweight. It'd probably be gray and a weight of 0. Future, maybe a dash line for future object. So the reason that point cells were created in the very beginning, back when the software was created, was you didn't have a lot of space on a hard drive. So you didn't have a lot of room inside a cell library to just pack it full of 5,000 symbols. So a point cell can do double duty. It can, same geometry is in there one time, but when you pull it out, you can place it infinite number of ways depending on your change of attribute. Okay? Show you another oddity about.
I have another question.
Okay.
Before you make the cell, you have to set up the layer, width, lifestyle, and scale before you do that.
Not scale. Are you talking about the point cell or the normal graphic cell?
Normal.
All right. Remember, the normal graphic cell is going to go in the library how you created it with the 4 attributes. So if you created on a level called structure and you pull it out and place it in your drawing, even if the drawing didn't have a level called structure, when you place that symbol in the drawing, it says, this was created on structure. We don't have one. Let's create one. It will create the level to put the symbol.
So they automatic create the layer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's why in a cell library, by design, you should go through there and look at all of your symbols and see, are they on a good layer, a good name? If you had one of them on a layer called Joe Bob, you know that Joe Bob was just playing one day and he made one. And when you put it in a drawing, that's what you're going to get. So cell libraries need to have more forethought when you create one. But let's go back to the point cell for a moment. I want to show you something. The reason that you don't use point cells is if you use view rotation, and I rotate this view, notice what rotated and what didn't. Point cells don't rotate. Now, everything we do is rotated, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you take, because all of our drawings, the corridor is east and west. Now, it may be on the earth at an angle, which they always are, but when you're working in your sheets, you're always rotating east-west. And so every point cell, if you used it as a point cell, would not have rotated, and therefore you're not going to get what you think. Now, if I take and if I drop this cell, and I've got complex, so if I drop it, I'm going to do a view previous. Put it back like it was. And oddly enough, if you went and looked today at the cell libraries that Bentley delivers with MicroStation when it's installed, they're all point cells. So you can't just always use what they give you in your drawing. You gotta know. So you ask about cells and putting them on different levels. Now, one more thing. What was the level name that this one was created on? If you hover over it, does it tell you the level? It tells you the level it's created on, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But that might not be the level you wanted on. Yes, you can move it to another level, but if I go up and get that cell again right now, on U1,
No, I think this one is the level like this. They will confuse with the line. So this one, I think they need to add another words like symbol or something.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
You know.
Was that a question or a statement?
No, I mean you just highlight this one. I saw the level name for this one.
Okay,
No,
so.
one. It's just
This
like
one
this
right
one over there. UT fiber
Yeah.
and line underground, right?
Well,
But-
if you look at the top, that was the active level when I created it. And I told you, when you create a symbol, you better pay attention to what level are you putting it on in the library, because when it comes back out of the library, it's coming on the level that it was created on. Except, in this case, watch this, when I bring it up, if I place it right now, we know what level it's gonna go on. But notice, let's see, place active cell. How about if I say place cell relative. If I change my level right now to north arrow, and I say place cell relative and hit enter, and place it, and hover back on top of it, look what level it's on. It wasn't created on that level. But when I said place my cell relative, relative to what? Relative to where I am now. So you can use symbols out of the library, piping symbols, for example, valves and fittings for piping, and you want the text for the valves and the fittings on the same level as those components, because if for some reason they say, listen, I want you to make me a plot, but I don't need all that valves and fittings and text on there. Well, if it's all on the same layer and you turn that layer off, then you get it all
Yeah.
off. So by design, you structure drawings for the purpose of turning things on and off at plot time. Do you have any other questions on cells?
So point cells aren't used that often.
They're not, and the reason is that we live in a world that we have to rotate our drawings. If we didn't, there's other worlds that people live in, the mechanical world, if we're designing mechanical parts. This is not out on a corridor somewhere. This is small stuff in here, and everything is never rotated. So, yes, you can use.
Or you said like if you put like you create the cell center. So when you rotate the view, the text inside will rotate with the plan view.
The text inside? Yeah.
Not the pawn, right? Not the pawn cell, center pawn cell.
Well, obviously, if you type anything in your drawing and you rotate the view, you're going to get the cell is rotated and the text would be rotated, but not in a point cell.
Not the pawn. Okay.
Point cell doesn't rotate.
Can you show me one in there? You can try something like W for water line.
In a point cell, you want it in a point cell or a regular cell?
Regular cell.
Okay.
Circle with the letter.
I'll just do this. I'll take Monu 1 and delete it. And delete both of these. Now this is the circle I started with, and this is the line work I started with. If I take some text. So step 1 is to create the geometry. Step 2 is to place your fence. Step 3 is to place your origin wherever you want that to be. And then step 4 is to create the cell. Now, if you'll notice, this was the key-in command that I used last time.
Okay.
Okay, now that's what you did before you had this nice box in front of you. But you'll notice on the box that's in front of you now, there is a create button down here.
Okay.
I could have say create. Now, what name do I want to give it? Monu 1. What description do I want to give it? You'll notice up there I separated name and description with a comma. And so I'll say my first monument. And here is where I would change it from a graphic to a point cell to a menu cell. Now, I'm not gonna cover menu cells here because we don't use menu cells. But you can actually have a cell panel come up that you predefined with all kind of commands on here, that had commands on level 63, that when you bring it up in your drawing, you could have an on-screen menu to pick on things, but we don't do that. Anyway, here's where you create the graphic cell. And so now if I say create and bring it out, AXC equals monu1, and place it in my drawing.
Okay.
Now what do you want to do? Rotate the drawing and see what happens?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if I rotate the view,
It won't change. Right?
what?
The text is not rotate. The text is not rotate like.
Not
West,
rotate view.
east, west.
You want me to physically rotate it?
Is there any way to make the cell where the cell, like if you rotate the cell, the text stays?
It's still like
Horizontal.
east west like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all would see it.
Because if we have a
Yeah.
pole, we always put the line on whichever way the power line's running, but we need the text to stay unrotated, like the PP for a power pole.
Like a square or a circle is still in the. It's still show like rotate with the
Okay.
plan, but the text they still keep like horizontal.
Okay. If I take that word text for a moment and make a cell out of this. Create cell equal pole text, pole text, is it, I'll call it P,
Whole text.
I'll call it P text, okay, then I'll, description, comma, P. I'm gonna make a point cell out of this one. Remember, point cells don't, and you don't want text to rotate, right?
Right.
Okay, so if I make a cell out of this one, press enter, wait. So if I look at it here, okay, and if I rotate so far so good. Now watch what I'm getting ready to do though. I'm going to combine it now with a normal cell. I'm going to take this cell and move it on top of this plane geometry. I'm going to put a fence around it. I'm going to define the cell origin in the middle. I'm going to create that cell, CC equal. I'll call this monu2, my second monument. And I'm going to leave it as a graphic cell, a normal cell. And here's what I'm doing. I'm making nested cells. I have a cell within this cell that I'm making. I'm going to hit enter. Active cell equals monu2. That's what I expected. And now when I go to rotate, that's what you asked me to do.
Yeah.
I've had no one here in this company ever ask for that. Okay? But I did it by making nested cells. Okay? If I do an information or an analyze on that cell, I can see that it's made up of a cell called monu2, the last one I did, and it's has another cell inside it called p-text, and that one is a point cell, because by definition, if point cells don't rotate, then you can design cells like this being nested to achieve whatever you're after.
So that means you create one cell, another cell, and you combine together.
Mhm. The thing you don't want to rotate is the thing you make your point cell with. Okay. Now, did it have to be a hard piece of text? Can I edit that? Let me do a zoom previous. If I go and go to edit a piece of text. Okay, so you can edit text within a cell. You don't have to explode it back into its primitive in order to edit and then make the cell again.
Oh,
And
so
so-
you can edit or not? You can edit.
I just did.
Oh,
Just
you
did.
did.
You were writing it. I selected the edit command and touch it.
That's with a graphic and a point
That's good.
cell? Okay.
Because my graphic rotated, my point did not. So by design, if you need cells like this, we can create cells like this. Okay. Keeping in mind, if I go to place that again, let me put the view back like it was. If you had things differently here, notice it's on a different level. Okay. So all of these features within a CAD program, and AutoCAD is no different, they have features, but you have to understand the feature in order not to let it come and bite you. Okay, if you know how they work, you can work them. Okay. Did you have any other questions on the cells? Can you envision what kind of cells you're wanting now?
Yeah, I think that's on the manhole, storm manhole, and wastewater manhole with the text in there.
Yeah.
And some area we have to rotate, but they not rotate, so look, very funky.
Yeah.
That's why I like this song here.
Okay. Okay, that's doable. All right, what other questions did you have? Any others? You had some, Stacy.
Yeah, not for cells.
Right.
The alignment, you showed me how to draw alignment before, but it's not around like a curve or,
Like what we have here?
right, correct.
Show you how to do an alignment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Let me do a file save as. Well, I don't have to do that. I'll just, yeah, let me do that. All right, let's put a new one in here. I'll get rid of. That's the fiber route. Okay, so I'm just going to say reference, detach, all. Get rid of all my reference files. I'll do a fit. I will rotate. I'm saying unrotated. There it is. Okay. Now, this is not one. It's probably a complex chain. In fact, it is. Down at the bottom, you see complex chain, but that's not the way it's drawn. It was drawn in
Correct.
pieces, and we
Correct.
glue it together. So you're there. You're that far.
Yes, sir.
Now, what we need to do is just put stationing on it.
Correct, yes.
Okay. The first thing I would do is attach my cell library where my station tick mark resides. So I would go to Element Cells. I would make sure that my BBI Share cell library is attached. And you do that by clicking on File, and you could say Attach File, or you could just go down the list and find BBI Share and select it.
My computer don't have this.
You don't have what?
There's cell library. Only they have very simple one in there. They don't have it. When I try to open or attach file, they come another box, but it don't have much. You know, like
You mean you've opened a cell library that doesn't have much in it?
no. Don't have
Okay, well, we need to
I
see.
think very standard cell library in my computer.
Okay, I'll just need to come and see where you're looking for your cell libraries.
And that's one that depend on the project we open on, or they already have in the MicroStation.
No, these are not part of MicroStation. These are on our system out there. Now, if your project, if you've selected a project, and I don't know how, I need to come and see, if it localizes and locks you to a certain location, then you're probably not seeing the vast wealth of symbols that have been created for the company to use. I don't know that without coming and seeing your machine, and I'll do that.
Yeah.
But attach the BBI Share, and the cell that I created for the static tick mark is called static. So I'll hit the letter S a couple of times, try to walk down and try to find static, STATIK for station tick. I'll double click on it just to bring it out in the drawing and see what my settings are so far. So I can see that by bringing a symbol out here and looking at the box over here, my active angle is set to something squirrely, 90 degrees, point something. So I can just, doesn't matter, but I'll just say active angle equals 0, just set it there. The reason that I have it as a 40 scale right now is because we are cutting sheets that are 40 scale sheets. If this was a 20 scale drawing, then I would set this to 20, and the size of my tick mark now would be appropriate in these 20 scale sheets. It can always be sized later, but 40 scale drawings will require a 40 scale cell. This is another reason why when you create cells in a cell library, you always be thinking in terms of, if it's going into a 100 scale drawing, you want to set your scale to 100 and it's right. But too often you're going to find when someone creates a cell, they were not in 1:1, they were already up there in that big 100-footer. And when they create something at that point, it's going in the library as a scale of 1, even though they created it in 100 scale. So it's huge, it's 100 times larger than it needs to be. So the next time someone uses that and keys in active scale 100, it's now 1,000 times, it's 100 more than it should be. So much care and attention has to be if you're going to create geometry for other people to use it. Once you've got your tick mark and you see that 40 scale looks good, you make sure this true scale is always turned on when you place cells in MicroStation. True scale. And I'm just going to place it there just to look at it. I'll delete that in a minute. I really don't need it there. But I do want to make sure that my entire corridor, my entire line is selected, because if this was broken up into 2 or 3 different parts, then when I run this tick mark along the route, it would stop where the line stops. It would not have gone all the way to the end. So I have to make sure I make complex geometry out of this. And you know how to do that. Okay, to now place this along would be to, I'm gonna bring up my sidebar menu, because this is where I have it. Under tools is cell along. Are you using your sidebar menu?
So,
Yeah. Yep. If I click on cell along, my tool settings box over here is saying that my active cell is station tick, my active scale, well, it picked up a spacing of 40, but how far apart do you want your station?
100.
100. And we don't worry about angle yet because this is gonna go around. This is place cell along, whatever angle the line is. Okay, so once that's taken care of, then I should be able to snap to the end of my line and place my symbols. I want you to watch this. So I've identified the cell and the spacing, data point, and data point to accept it, and I can see right away that it went wrong. It went on the bottom. See how that worked?
Yeah.
So over here in your tool settings box, the angle should be set not to 0 but to 180 to make it come on top. I'll click the undo command. I'll select the command again to place cell along, changing the angle to 180. Snap to the end of the line, accept it, and then my next point to accept is in the direction I want the cell to go. And you can see it places them where you expected them to be. Agreed? Okay.
So the number you have to add it by, like Mario.
Say it again?
The number from 0 to 100. So now the digit come all 0. So we have to edit it by each number.
I'll get there.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there. I'm gonna delete the one I had out here just for show, just so I can see what size it was. I'm gonna go to the end of the corridor now. And I can tell that there's gonna be a remnant, something less than 100 is still out here, but I still need a tick mark on the end of it. And it'll be something, not a whole number, obviously. So if I bring up my active cell, 0 degrees. Now, I need the cell to rotate to be normal to that line. You agree? Well, on the sidebar, you've got active angle by 2 points, project. You can't read that quite well, but by nearest and by key point. Well, just watch what happens. If I select by project snap, and I snap here and snap there, then it set the angle by the 2 points that I snapped to so that I can get normal to the 2 points that I just made. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I'll place it there. Now, if I use the measuring tool and I measure the length of an element, and I can see right here what it is, then I know that this is going to be 113 plus 86.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I could edit and physically make this my ending. So that'll be the ending. And then now I've got to put my numbers in here. Okay. Now programs like GeoPack and others will automatically do these kinds of things for you, but We don't use I don't have it, you don't have it, you're not using it. I'm going to rotate my drawing for a moment, get here. Now, the first one's gotta be 0. So in my text tools, if I come down to fill in a single inner data field, fill in a single inner data field. And I'm going to click where the inner data field is located. And before I do that, if I go to settings and view attributes, if I turn on data fields, do you see where the fields are? Turn them off, turn them on. Now, do you know what the inner data field is? What character it is? Have you placed any of them before in your drawings?
You mean replace number?
Well, for example, if you're placing text and you placed, let's say you placed text underbar A underbar 1, 2, 3 at an active angle of 0. Okay. I use the underbar on the keyboard to create the text underbar A underbar whatever. Okay. MicroStation uses that underbar from the keyboard as a special character called a data field where you can programmatically throw data into it when you need to. If I come over to my view attribute box now and turn off the display of inner data fields, notice it went away in my text as well. So you always turn these off before you send them to a plotter. You know that.
Right.
Because they will plot.
The line,
Now,
the underline, they will plot
underlines will plot, yeah, because they're data field, well, yeah, it's text, but MicroStation is using the data field, the underbar, as its data field. But what happens to the underbars in all the text that you have in your general notes and such? When you turn it off the data field here, they're going to go off in your general notes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell MicroStation to use something different than the underscore. You could set it to a character that you know you'd never use, like that that line, the tilde.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll never use that, then let that be your inner data field. I'm just showing you what you got here because we're going to get back to scripting in a minute, or as time allows. And when I told you, when you have 100 drawings and you're sending it to the client, and you're going to set the angle to 0 and set the scale to 1, and you're going to turn off the axis lock, you're going to turn off inner data fields too, because you don't want them plotting. And if I turn them off, and we just happen to have put a lot of it in the general notes, then I'm kind of, so you got to know. So when you're doing your drawing, you'll do something different. Nonetheless, I've turned them off for the purpose of, here's where we are. Let me delete my text and let me go back, and we're going to enter our first inner data field. I'm going to hold down on the text tool. I'm going to come down to the command that says fill in a single enter data field. I'm going to click where it belongs. I'm going to put in the value of 0 and accept it and reset. So now I've placed my first value. Okay. If an inner data field is built for the purpose of receiving data, I just put some in there,
Mm-hmm.
a 0, because that's my starting point. Now, what about these others up here? If I hold down my text tool again and come down to where it says fill in a single inner data field, I don't want to have to go to every one of them and type a number. How long would that take? But if you look at another tool right above that, it says copy and increment at the inner data field. Copy and increment. So it's going to make a copy of the one I touch and increment it by the value that I want. So if I select the command, notice in the tool settings box, copy and increment the enter date field, the tag increment is set to 1. I could set it to anything I want to, but I want it to go in increments of 1. So I'm going to select the one I want to start with. I'm going to select the next one, and it put a 1 in there. I'll select the next one. Do you see what it's doing there? Now, is this the way I always do it? Well, it's not the way I always do it. When I'm in irregular curvature and such, yes. But when I get on a long stretch, I can give it one command and it'll just put 50 of them in there. So I'll show you that because I think we do have a long stretch over here in a minute. But when I'm out this far, you know, notice my cursor. Oh, boy, that looks different on the screen here. Look at my cursor on my, you know it's a cross.
All right.
See that? It's a cross.
Mhm.
It's a cross with a circle. The circle is called locate. In other words, if I get over here and hit a data point, nothing's going to happen. Well, let me undo that. I was too close to it. Okay. Those sticks that you see, if you touch something with a stick, nothing's going to happen. That circle has to touch something. That's called locate. Well, if I want to get out this far and do what I was just doing, I don't want to have to move my cursor that close in to catch it. So by default, the value of that diameter of that circle is set to 10. If I say set locate 50, look what happened to my cursor. Can you look on the screen? Well, yeah, you can see it up there.
Yep.
See what I did? That way, I can get over here and just be close in proximity to that thing. And let's see, I gotta catch this one. Yeah. So I can zoom out. Look at that. See, I don't have to worry, am I down in there? I don't want to zoom in all the time. I want to stay far out so I have a big picture. So I can change my locate. I did it to 50. I think I can go as high as 100, I think. Let me see what that is. Yeah. Now 100 would be too much. I'm over everything. Can't do that. All right, well, I'm just going to put it back to 10 for a moment. Okay, we're by default. Now, how do I know? Sometimes when I run, the line might be a little bit wavy. I might think it's straight, but it might be a little bit wavy. So when I send 50 of them down through there, 50 of them go at 0 degrees, and it might have missed the dip and caught the next one, and this one didn't get numbered, but the others did. And I get all the way to the end and see my number and the one that I put there and realize, man, I missed it somewhere down the line. I got to go back and find where I didn't get it right. So on a long one, here's how I check myself. It should be 2600 to this point. So I will take partial delete. Cut that line to there and measure that line here. I didn't snap exactly perfect. Okay. Now if I measure it, I should get 2600. It's a visual for me to know I'm good up to this point.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
thing.
Now what? I'm just going to do a series of undo, and I'm back. It's now one piece. It's not broken anymore. If I touch it now, see, it's all one piece. But I temporarily did a partial delete, brought it back to a station tick, measured that piece to make sure I'm good so far. Now I can keep going. I'll select my command again, or copy and increment the inner data field. I'll go get back the one I started with here and just continue on the route. I know it looks slow me going and just showing you this, but when you're doing this, it's much faster. Now I think I can straighten that thing up and throw a few of them down through there. So let me use my view rotation, and I want to make sure that normal, it's already set to nearest, so I'll just go from here to about here. And if I use that command again from here to here, yes, I'm in good shape, and while that's still hot like it is, I will give a key in that I want to send it down the road 20 times. I'm just going to do it 20 times. So while I'm in a command, it's waiting for another data point. Well, I'm going to key in a data point. And here's how I would do it. I'd say distance equal, and the DI, or the distance command, it's looking for distance comma direction. So the distance is 100 feet. DI is equal to 100 feet, comma, and what angle am I looking for? Well, if I'm going straight to the right, what angle is that?
0.
0. So that syntax means distance comma direction, how far I want it to go in the direction I want it to go, and if I hit enter, it did it. Great. But I don't want to keep hitting up arrow. Okay, now I'm probably off. Let me rotate that a little bit more. Okay. Okay, we're good so far. I'll hit my up arrow. Now that's a command that will send it down the road 100 times to the right. I'll just hit enter and it did. Okay, I'll hit my up arrow. But I don't want to do that every time. So I will use the pipe symbol. Now notice on my keyboard, if y'all can look right here, it's above the enter key. It's that vertical bar. So I have to hit shift, vertical bar, and it's just a vertical bar. That's the pipe symbol. On the right hand side, I'm going to say 20. What that means is everything to the left of the pipe is the command. Everything to the right of the pipe is how many times I want that command to operate. So do this 20 times. Now if I hit enter, and if that's a pretty straight line, I should get 20 out of that before it changes from 0 degrees. So watch what happens now when I hit enter. Okay, did you see what happened?
Mm-hmm.
It walked down the line. Let me go down there and see where it stopped. And if I'm still good, I should be able to just hit my up arrow and do it again. Up arrow, hit it again, and I'll just, it fell off. It's not going to go any further, so I knew it was going to get that many. So I'm just going to test it again and see if I'm right here. I'll use my partial delete command. I will extend the line to an intersection. I'm going to wait Stacy and let you look at this too. I'm extending this line here. Now I'm going to measure this line using the measuring tool. And it better be 105. And it is. So now, so far, I'm in the right spot. So I'll do an undo once and then twice. Now my line is whole again. And with a short one like that, I'm just going to walk it home by selecting the copy and increment command. What do you think?
It's a lot easier than doing it
Okay.
manually.
So, for the last couple number, can we rotate it?
Yeah, that's where we're going next. Okay, because that last sheet is not going to be upside down. That last sheet is going to be right side up, and so that needs to be right side up.
Mhm.
So here's how we do it. We just select all of those. And what I'm showing you is just basic MicroStation strategy and commands. It's nothing weird about what I'm going to show you, because you just said, can we rotate them? So I'm going to use the rotate command. But if you look on the tool settings box, we want to rotate by active angle. What active angle? I'm going to set the active angle to 180.
On
Okay, and look at this button, about the element's center. If you click on that, it knows it's a cell, and you remember where we put the origin on that cell when it was created. It's in the middle of that tick.
Mhm.
So any rotation would be in the center of it. I'll accept it and reset.
that's good.
Does that work for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
more than I expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's our timing looking like? Well, I can,
12 times.
we have 10 minutes. I'm going to show you a few scripts now. You were wanting to see the creating the alignment and placing the station tick marks in. I think you can see it's rather straightforward.
Mhm.
Yes, when you're around some irregulars, you can't be automated on a long run, but even on a long run, you can place them pretty quickly. So it doesn't take long to build one of these. Now, you've seen it. You may not know how to do it when you get back, but you know it can be done, and when you need me, just call me and I'll come over there and we'll do it. And, hey, once you do it a few times, then you own it. And then when you share it with someone else, that's when you really own it. Okay, let's talk about scripting for just a moment. If I do a file, open, you can see in this folder of files, I'm going to open up sheet number 8, and we're going to see where is MicroStation looking when I open it. Okay, I've gone through here though when I was doing sheet renumbering. That's our next, one of our next lunch and learns is how to automatically do the sheet renumbering from drawing to drawing. So a lot of these are probably going to be looking at the title block because that's the way I had it set up. Let me go grab another one. Now what I want you to see is how pleasing that is, and it definitely is to our client when they go and open the drawings and they're looking at the same spot all the time. Hopefully they're looking at the title block where it's telling them what this thing is. Maybe I need to include the description here in where we're looking. Okay. Other things you want to look at is if I type in well, let's see, I don't have to type it in. I've got it up here. If I click my axis lock and turn it back off again, down at the bottom, can you see where my cursor is right down here? Can you see this right here?
Mhm.
Locks is SN, that's for snap. That's why you're able to snap. But if I turn my axis lock on, do you see the AX show up down there? AX, it's telling me my axis lock is on. So if I had my graphic group lock, I could see it there. Okay, so if I come over here to my locks, this is another place where you can see at a glance, are they on? Is your graphic group lock on or is it off? Well, look at there, that GG just showed up down there at the bottom because I turned it on over here. You don't want the graphic group lock on. You don't want the association lock on. And I'll just kind of show you why. The association lock was on when I created the tag here for sheet number numbering. Now if I use the copy command and copy it over here, notice what it looks like. I have a broken association. If you've ever seen that in your drawings, then someone has associated with something for some reason. Usually when you've got a leader line of text and pointing to something, and then you say, that's a good looking leader line in text, I'm gonna copy it over here. And you copy it over here and it goes squirrely on you, okay? It's because someone had association lock on when they pointed to this thing. And if you didn't copy this thing with it, it's gonna break on you. And that's the purpose of the look and feel. MicroStation has a preference that says, do we want to turn that off? And a lot of people will turn it off because they don't like dealing with fixing the problem. So they'll turn it off and your drawing has cancer, but you don't know it until you turn that back on and realize where the breaks are. Anyway,
Now, does that go with
not the drawing.
if you say settings?
No,
Okay.
no.
So from the beginning, we have to turn off the what you call graphics something.
Graphic group
Graphic
lock.
group.
Yeah.
Just turn off, right? Turn off from when we start.
I do. So there's a series of things that we want to turn off in these drawings is what I'm getting at. And when you start determining what they are, and I've got a list over here that I'll give you. Let's see, batch scripts. I created a file called MicroStation Knowledge, and it's just some things in here that we want to do. For example, that very first one, view off. In some cases, you'll find that people will have another view on. Okay. And so what you want is you want to make sure that all views are turned off except one. So if you typed in view off all, view on one, window tile, fit, SELV space one, put a data point in view one. Now, if all of that was automated and you did that on every drawing, you could get them in check real quick before you send them to the client. So we're gonna do one of these. If I want to do that to all of those drawings, I would come in here and go to utilities. We want to run a batch process. Okay. Well, let's just create a new one, and we might want to call this one fix before sending to client. It's just a name. Okay, hit enter, and it opens up and says, okay, we've named it now, fix before sending to the client. What do you want to put in here? Well, let's say I want to make sure that I do view off all, view on one, okay, window tile, and fit. That's what I had just done a moment ago. So I'm typing in there what I want MicroStation to do when it opens this. Now I also see some settings. I want to set my angle to 0, my active scale to 1, set my color to white as a default, set my style to a solid line, my weight to 0. Now this file, you know what that is? That's save settings. Okay. But I don't have to save settings right now. At the end, I better save settings because you know as well as I do, anything you change, if you get out and come back in without save settings, it didn't take. Okay. So I'm gonna have a few settings there, and let me just put these in there and we'll talk about what they are.
That was one of the questions that set Ed off.
Okay. Enter data field off. Remember? The display of an enter data field.
Alright.
If you want them off, then you have to turn them off, otherwise they're gonna plot. So I'm saying set them off in view 1. I didn't have to save settings here, these are just individual.
Alright.
Tags, the display of tag data, because tags print as well, they're numbers and they print, you don't want them on. Level symbology on, do you like level symbology on? Most of the time that's what y'all do, make sure it's on. Text on and off. You know, in settings, view attributes, if I turn off text right now, for the purpose of working in a lot of intricate geometry over here, and if I'm zoomed in and I'm working in it and the day is over and I say, oh, save settings, and I had my text off, that does stay. So when someone opens your drawing and they're gonna say,
It's gone.
he's deleted all my text, it's not there. And someone wouldn't think to maybe come over and just turn the display of text back on. So if that can always be a problem, then we always want to make sure that we set text on and then weight on, okay? If you had weight off, it'd all be a 0 line weight. And you always want your weight to be on. There's other things, let me just get these. We're gonna pick this thing up good. Lock, snap, key point. Which one do we want? We want the axis lock off, and we either want one of these. I always use key point on, and then I don't. You can't have both of these on the same time. Now, remember the graphic group lock I was telling you about? Here they are. So we want the graphic group lock off, and we want the text, the association lock off. I'm gonna control, yes, there we go, save it. I wanna run all these things on those drawings. So let me close that. I'll close this temporarily. So here I say now what drawings do I want to work on. I'm going to say, well, here's my where I add my drawings. I'm in see where I got to go with this thing. VBI Lunch and Learn, sheet renumbering demo, this is good here. Okay, so I want on all sheets. And so now I've identified, if I view the script, oop, not there. If I use my edit tool, there's the script. This is what I want to work on. I'm going to say execute it, and it's coming up and saying, okay, here are all of the files that we're going to execute. It's pending. Let's process. So anyway, this is an automated way of filling out a command list of what you want to turn on and off, and then running it against a folder of your drawings, so that whenever it's time to give the digital file to them, then they'll be in some kind of a ordered look and feel.
And you can do this with like particular layers, like on a layer on and a layer off
Yes.
on every drawing, like the seals.
Yes, we don't have time to get into that, but we'll do that on the next one.
Okay.
If you'll notice, where was that? Open this back up, right down here at the bottom. Reference levels off. Okay, a certain level off in a certain reference file.
Okay.
Okay, but what happens when you have the master sheet file and you have reference file nested? You have live nesting going,
Mm-hmm.
okay? It's logical that you'd say, it's in the master sheet file, but look at this arrowhead right here. A dash and an arrowhead, but it's down in this file that's attached as a reference. So this is your nested reference. So that's how easy that is to
Okay.
control. So you can actually turn someone's seal on and off
Mm-hmm.
throughout the entire set. And not so much that, you can turn their construction on in the beginning, and then when it's time to go to press, you turn their seal on. Yeah. So what you want to do is be thinking in terms of automation. What can I automate in MicroStation, since that's where we are, and let the computer do what it's designed to do, rather than me manually spending the next 3 hours doing something. When we get to sheet renumbering in our next class, you'll see the speed 0.47 seconds to renumber a drawing.
Mm-hmm.
If you got 100 of them to renumber, that'll save you a lot of time.
Okay.
Any questions before we dismiss?
No.
Yeah, I have one question. Example like the job they have 100 seats, and then all the plan view and they use the border, they reference the border with the seat number in there. But you know some detail job they not use the border, they copy the border on the active file. So what happened if the number change like 101? So if the file with the border, we just change from the border, the number in the border. So the rest they will change, except the detail sheet or notes, because that's one they copy on the active file, the border in the other. It's not changed. You have any way to change this one? Do one time they change the rest for the whole.
Sure.
Yeah.
In details,
Mhm.
you don't have to attach your border to the detail because it already has a border. But you can attach in the border, in your border file is a rectangle on a level by itself. You attach that only to your detail. So your border is actually attached to the detail. And therefore you can have the sheet number total is the same. So when you put that one sheet total in the border, it shows up everywhere. Now, true, if the detail border has the title block shifted to where the sheet number's up here, then you have to physically put that one in there. Okay. But you don't have that many detail sheets in a plan set compared to the sheets that you created.
Yeah, because the regular one, the regular border with the title block assemble the Y like this. But you know in the detail or notes, because that's too much notes in there, so they have to reduce the block, the title block in there. So that's why I copy on the active file to edit to fit on that sheet.
I'm gonna open a detail that you're talking about right now. I don't know.
Not that one, the one with the notes.
Like a page 2 or 3.
I think 2, 3 notes or something. That's one.
Yeah, this one has your border in it. Hey, we deal with it as it comes. Okay, deal with it as it comes. Any other questions over what you've seen or?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well.
One last question.
Huh?
I have one last question.
Okay.
Sorry about it. When I working in MicroStation, then I reference a different job into the.
I hope you're not doing that. You reference a different job into your current
Yeah,
job?
to get to get the same lifestyle from the other job. So when I reference us in, and then I copy the text or copy some lifestyle, they blow up just like the AutoCAD or something.
Listen, every project should be standalone. You should never reference from another project. We can fix, if there's a problem, we know how to fix it, that, but we archive projects from time to time. So if we archive that project and your project was referencing to it and it's no longer there, then you've just broken all your drawings.
And I think if we're working on a Comcast drawing, you can reference an old Comcast drawing just to get like the symbols or the
Oh,
text.
just to pull stuff out of it?
Yeah,
Sure,
yes,
sure.
not use it as a
Yeah,
background.
I see what you're getting at.
Yeah,
And you're saying when you pull it in though, that's where it explodes and.
Yeah, you can have a line type as like small dash, but when you copy it into your file, then it changes. It's a
Yeah, that
longer
changes.
dash. That's
Yeah.
an active line.
Well, you're in a
Right.
different scale probably as
Right.
well.
No, we use the same scale for Comcast. Like sample a tree, remember? A tree's symbol. When I go in that job, the same scale, 20 scale, they look
Okay.
fine. But when I reference to this one, the same scale, 20, copy us, it will blow up. Big one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think that's one we got from like a College Station. I think they use a different scale.
Now, you remember
Fairmont.
the legend from Comcast.
Oh, the Legend. Yeah.
See, the legend they have a lifestyle and symbol in there. When we reference, copy, it has blow up. You know?
Yeah.
When that
There's one
happens,
symbol on there,
call
too.
me, let me come over and take a look at it.
Everything looks right except for one tree symbol, and
Yeah.
it blows up.
Okay.
And then when I copy it, blow up like that, and the tree in the base,
Mm-hmm.
the automatic change, right? The automatic
Yeah.
get the big one in there. I don't
Right.
know why.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Hey, well, let David know you learned something, so he'll let you do this again.
Oh yeah.
And tell him we need to get back in here, and we can do it this week too if we need to. I'd like to get you back in here for the sheet renumbering, and then we'll
Mhm.
finish up on our scripting.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.